Yeah, free Assange, mate. Good on you, mate, for telling the truth. That's real hard, you know, telling the truth.
Yeah.
Good on you, mate. They're brave to do it even though they know the outcome, you know what I mean? And good on Snowden too, mate. Good on Snowden and anyone else who brings out the truth. I think people need to pray for him too. You need to pray to God for him for things to be changed.
Yeah, lots of people are praying.
Yeah, to let him come out of his dark place and go into the light, you know?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we're going to have, I think, some speeches and things.
The Australian publisher Julian Assange, illegally locked in detention in London, his own country, the country of which he's a citizen, refuses to take any action to help with that. Free Julian Assange. This is a letter that's been circulating amongst Australian politicians. It's a petition for assistance to the Australian citizen Julian Assange, illegally locked in Belmarsh Prison in the UK. The letter is to Senator the Honourable Marise Payne. It goes, Dear Minister, we the undersigned, currently serving as former members of Parliament, Senators and Councillors, are writing to seek your advice and your urgent intervention to protect Australian publisher Julian Assange. Mr. Assange is detained in Belmarsh Prison in the UK in the midst of extradition proceedings, wholly related to publications for which the Walkley Foundation awarded WikiLeaks in the year 2011 most outstanding contribution to journalism. This is a letter written by the writers, publishers and journalists to the Senator Marise Payne, Minister for Foreign Affairs. Dear Minister, we the undersigned journalists, publishers and writers are seeking your urgent intervention to have Julian Assange immediately released on bail. Mr. Assange is facing life in prison for publications in partnership with The Guardian, The New York Times, Le Monde, Der Spiegel and other major media partners in 2010 and 2011. For anyone who cares about freedom of the press as a cornerstone of democracy, this is completely unacceptable. There is no doubt these extradition proceedings are intended to send a message to other publishing organisations, large and small, independent and institutional, that reporting of unapproved national security stories will not be tolerated. We hear this message and we reject it. The use of espionage charges against people publishing material provided by whistleblowers is deeply alarming and runs directly against the foundation principles of free and fearless reporting. Now, in the midst of a pandemic, court proceedings have been thrown into chaos. The UK prison system is no place for a publisher at the best of times, and these are not the best of times. before the court reconvenes, we request of you the following. 1, to make representations on Mr. Assange's behalf that he be released on bail immediately. 2, to relay to us the outcome of this representation. We represent a wide cross-section of Australian journalists and publishers, having worked in public and private broadcasting, print, radio and other media. We are determined to raise our voices and free one of our own, and we ask that you raise your voice with us. We are Jeff Sparrow, Wendy Bacon, Mary Costa-Ketis, Andrew Fowler, Quentin Dempster, Valerie Cripps, Anthony Lowenstein, Dylan Welsh, Dr. Alison Bronowski, John Altman, Paddy Manning, Philip Adams, AO, George Burchett, Giordano Nanni, Kathy Vogan, Alison Caddy, Sarah Bailey, Jordan Brown, James Ricketson, Curtis Levy, Richard Bronowski, AO, Timothy Eric Strong, Stefan Moore, Simon Cooper, Peter Crono, Michael Williams, Michael Rubo, Guy Rundle, David Bradbury, Chaz Picciardello, Bernard B, Helen Fraser, Bernadetta Ravini, Julian Morrow, and Rowan Connolly.
Excellent!
Take over. Take over.
Free Julian Assange, innocent Australian lawsuit, the UK prison system for exposing war crimes of Australian allies. Moving with our advice as to the morality of these things they lead us into. Not only a messenger, a person who exposed these dastardly crimes.
Corruption and wrongdoing, and couldn't get it fixed internally. And felt like they had no choice but to.
People that support justice for Assange. Julian Assange is a political prisoner. Very, very important that people understand that we have fought for centuries for the rights of habeas corpus, the right to be charged, the right to be heard in the court of our peers. We cannot be summarily put in prison, solitary confinement by politicians who may be corrupt, who have been corrupt over centuries, and we've fought and died over centuries for the right to be charged or let go. They've not charged Assange for 10 years. He's been in effective captivity. He's been in solitary confinement. There are many, many notable Australians that are very, very angry about it. Our political establishment have got their head in the sand. He's a political prisoner. He's broken no laws. Had he broken any laws, he would have been charged with it for over the past 10 years. They fabricated lies about sexual offences, and they amplified it in the media, even going to the extent of, in many instances, accusing him of being a rapist. They told the public he was a rapist to destroy his credibility, so the people wouldn't support him. Well, wake up. If you don't stand up for justice for everybody in this country, you won't have it for yourself. Everybody. You people that come from foreign countries who know about despotic governments, who know about wicked politicians using military enforcement for their own benefit. Well, it's a new world. We have to stand up for justice for everybody. And I'm going to read out a list of names of people who say that Assange is not getting justice, and it's a very, very important issue, and it must be attended to with all haste immediately by the political establishment, who after all is supposed to represent what we the people think is a reasonable thing, or at least account for their activities. They can sit in Canberra and pretend that there's something evil going on, but they've never tabled any evidence. So we are supposed to be innocent until proven guilty. But Assange has been proven guilty by smears, innuendos, and media lies. Here are some of the people that support Julian Assange and want justice for him. Andrew Wilkie, a member of Parliament. Senator Peter Wish-Wilson. George Christensen, member of Parliament. Susan Templeman, member of Parliament. Zali Steggall, member of Parliament. Tony Zappia, member of Parliament. Julian Hill, member of Parliament. Adam Bandt, member of Parliament. Senator Richard Di Natale, Senator Rex Patrick, Senator Nick McKim, Maria Van Gakenau, member of Parliament. Former Senator Christine Milne, former Green Senator Scott Ludlam, who's been very vocal and demonstrative about the injustice. Senator Andrew Bartlett, Senator Lee Rhiannon, Arthur Chesterfield Evans, Sylvia Hale, James Ryan, Kathy Griff. That's our Griffy Griff, Tony.
Yeah, let's go, Kathy.
Go, Kathy. She's a Sydney girl. Kathy Griff. Bravo, Kathy.
She's a Greens candidate
And
for Bega.
she's a Greens candidate for Bega. Go the Greens in this instance. Rochelle Porteous, Tony Wright too, Greg Clancy, Philip Bradley, Ryan Leppert, Vanessa Ekins, Brent Hoare, Philippa Veach. There are so many important people that are calling for justice for Assange. It's about time the political establishment did something, or at least come down here and talk to us. Come and talk to us, Morrison. I admire Morrison for saying we have the right to demonstrate, but we don't, because we have to make an application for a Form 1 or a Form 10, is it? Well, you either have the right to demonstrate or you don't. We don't have that form. I'm here to tell you, I'm afraid we don't have that form. Why should we have that form? If we have the right to demonstrate, we have the right to demonstrate. That's it, period. No if, but, we've filled out a form, got permission. So it's about time you all woke up and come support us every Friday afternoon at 4 o'clock in the winter. We're going to be here until they let him out of that hellhole. Solitary confinement. Can you believe we can do that to any human being in this day and age? So that's the story. Where are the politicians? Come and talk to us. Come on. Where are the facts? What crime has he committed? Table the crime. Table the charges. There are none. The Americans have no right to extradite Assange. He's an Australian citizen. If he hasn't broken any Australian laws, he ought to be set free. If the Americans have got evidence of any wrongdoing, table it. We don't want him kept in prison for another day where he might die. And if Assange dies in custody, I hope you all remember its existing federal government will be 100% responsible. All they've got to do is call the Americans and call Emperor Bloody Boris and say, for God's sake, let him out on bail. If there's charges, we want to see them. If there's evidence against him, you table it. If it's not tabled, he's a free man. He should be left alone.
Julian Assange is an Australian citizen. Julian Assange is a multi-award-winning journalist. He is regarded as one of the finest journalists on earth today. And yet this man languishes in a prison in the United Kingdom, and he has been and remains in solitary confinement for 23.5 hours a day. He is being tortured by the British at the behest of the American CIA. We should be outraged. Our government is failing to serve its people. Our government is in compliance with the evil, illegal, immoral, barbaric acts that are being perpetrated against this man who is completely innocent. Completely innocent. He has committed no offence. He has done all of us a great service. He has revealed the illegal wars that our tax dollars are paying for. These illegal wars are lining the pockets of the 1%. We must stop these mongrels. They need to be stopped now. We must stand up. They do not represent us. They are like a gang of thieves. They're a global gang of thieves. They must be stopped. And the only way to stop them is with people power. We outnumber them 99-1. We can win. We will win. History shows us that the 99% always come out on top. And we will come out on top this time. But you have to wake up and face up to what's going on in the world today. What do you think's happening in all over the world over George Floyd's death? We're now realising this gang of thieves and their militias are running the world. They need to be stopped, and we're rising up. We're rising up one by one. But we in Australia need to lead because it's our citizen who's being persecuted.
This is a letter written to the Foreign Minister, Marise Payne, from numerous human rights organisations requesting that the Australian government do all it can to protect our fellow citizen Julian Assange, and I'm going to read it to you. Dear Minister, we, the undersigned representatives of Australian human rights, digital rights and civil society organisations are calling for your urgent intervention on behalf of Mr. Julian Assange. Mr. Assange and his colleagues at WikiLeaks helped extend the power of investigative journalism and truth-telling into the digital age, exposing war crimes and human rights abuses to public view. As a result, he has paid a heavy penalty. In May 2019, Professor Niels Melzer, the UN Special Rapporteur on Torture, declared that Mr. Assange had been, and I quote, exposed to persistent, progressively severe abuse ranging from systematic judicial persecution and arbitrary confinement in the Ecuadorian embassy to his oppressive isolation, harassment and surveillance inside the embassy, and from deliberate collective ridicule, insults and humiliation to open instigation of violence and even repeated calls for his assassination. Professor Niels Melzer, the UN Rapporteur on Torture, stated that Mr. Assange shows the symptoms of an individual subjected to torture. Professor Melzer's review was undertaken well before the global pandemic, which has severely disrupted the UK's prison and judicial systems. Since then, the situation has deteriorated gravely, with remand prisoners now subjected to effective solitary confinement. The Australian government should be willing to intervene to protect the lives of Australians caught up in legal processes in foreign countries, where those proceedings violate international law. Before the court reconvenes, we request of you the following: to make representation on Mr. Assange's behalf that he be released on bail immediately, to relay to us the outcome of this representation. Mr. Assange is a publisher, a father, and an Australian citizen. It is time he had the support of his government. We await your response.
Free Julian Assange. He's an innocent man.
No US extradition!
These circumstances are just totally intolerable to a free people like the Australian community. Free Julian Assange.
Stand up for human rights!
Aware of the plight of Julian Assange, Australian journalist, Australian publisher, who is in prison in Belmarsh, the UK, on behalf of the Americans, by the way, not because the UK government wants him, or not because the Australian government wants him. It's on behalf of the Americans. And he has been charged with espionage for actions that any journalist or publisher would normally carry out. Also for actions that any citizen should carry out, and we have a duty to do so, which is to disclose crimes. So Julian Assange has disclosed war crimes committed by the US in Iraq and other places. He has disclosed corruption in government, so that we can keep our governments accountable. And because of that, he is in prison at the moment in solitary confinement, 23.5 hours a day, and in very fragile health. He is an Australian publisher, he is an Australian journalist, and he deserves the support of our government. Lawyers have said so to Minister Marise Payne, and they've written recently a letter as follows.
Dear Minister, we, the undersigned current and former practicing members of the Australian legal profession, are writing to seek your urgent intervention on behalf of Australian citizen Julian Assange. We do this with due recognition that diplomatic intercessions in the legal processes of foreign countries is not lightly undertaken. We also recognise that under certain circumstances it is appropriate and necessary. Careful interventions on behalf of Mr. Peter Grester, Melinda Taylor, David Hicks, James Ricketson and many others made a meaningful difference to positive outcomes in each case. We strongly argue that it is time Mr. Assange received a similar level of meaningful support. As legal practitioners, we are deeply concerned about the precedent effect of prosecuting an awarded publisher for nothing more than doing his job. We also hold grave concerns about the conduct of this particular case, given the enormous difficulties of conducting hearings amidst a pandemic. Mr. Assange has been unable to meet with or instruct legal counsel. Hearings have been disrupted and nearly impossible to follow by teleconference, and resolution has now been pushed back to September at the earliest. With the viral spread throughout the UK prison system, the situation has become untenable. Before the court reconvenes, we request of you the following: to make representation on Mr. Assange's behalf that he be released on bail immediately, to relay to us the outcome of this representation. An Australian citizen needs the active support of his government now more than ever. We await your reply at the earliest possibility. Signed by Julian Burnside, Order of Australia, Queen's Counsel. Elizabeth O'Shea. Malcolm Ramage, Queen's Counsel. Benedict Coyne. Dr. Spencer Zivkic, Alan Myers, Professor of Law, Australian Catholic University. Mark Davies. Adjunct Professor George Newhouse. Alan Myers, Queen Counsel. Stephen Kim, Queen's Counsel. Philip Siegel. Free Assange. Oh, thanks. I enjoy it.
We need to bend back.
Thank you, Julian. Thank you, Julian Assange. Thank you. I'm Stephen Ivan Skirkovich from Natal Street Party Law. I've been a singer for a long time. I've been homeless for a long time. But my arms are with you, brother.
Hi girls. We've got a petition. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming. See you.
All the best with it.
Thank you.
This year we're living in now marks the 76th anniversary of a German student in Munich back in the war years. She was distributing a pamphlet critical of the Nazi government that she was living under. She reached a point where she thought, to hell with it, to hell with the consequences. I'm going to distribute that pamphlet. Well, in no record time, she was arrested. She was arrested and faced the justice of the Nazi criminal code. Within hours, they had garroted her and her brothers. Is this the kind of justice that we find acceptable? Because this is the kind of justice that seems to be being dealt out in the UK courts, but in a much more vanilla, antiseptic way. But it results in the same endpoint. It bears all the resemblance of a judicial system that seeks to have this man murdered by extrajudicial means. The Nazis did it with judicial means, but it amounts to the same thing. Free Julian Assange now.
Yeah, we've got a little message here for the politicians who are not representing the citizens of this country. They're representing foreign interests, claiming it's about protecting us. Every racket they run is about protecting us. People I think we need to be protected from is our own politicians. They're dangerous. Politicians that mass murder people all over the globe, not we the people. So we need to start having a little bit of common sense here. We've been walking around displaying a sign around the city this afternoon a little bit. Many people are coming out and giving us a thumbs up and saying, yes, good, we must support science. It's very important you realise if we don't stand up for justice for everybody in this country, and if we can, everybody in this world, we will have no justice for ourselves. We cannot allow despotic politicians to put people in prison without charge. This is a right that goes back hundreds of years. It's called habeas corpus. They can't just summarily throw us in prison. They can't put us in secret trial. They have no right. We have a right to a hearing of our peers. It's an age-old right that we've fought and died for centuries. They cannot put us in prison without charge and a conviction by our peers. And what we're seeing now is secret trials, secret evidence that's not disclosed to the defendant, and people put in secret custody. And they've made so-called laws that enable these things to happen. Well, the question is, are they legitimate? I think they need to be ratified by the people. Media sadly not told us the truth about what's going on regarding Assange. In fact, they've branded him a rapist. It's a lie. It's a total lie. No one's ever accused him of being a rapist. He's never been charged with raping. But the media's used that to smear his reputation, and they've used that to politically marginalise him and keep him in custody. It's the most evil thing that the media has perpetrated. We must get some accountability for corrupt media and corrupt politicians. Everybody has to be accountable, including the politicians and the media. We can't have it lying to everybody. It's a new world. It's about time people realise it's a new world, and we have to have a more enlightened future for the planet. We need peace and justice. We don't need more lies and wars. Mass murdering of people all over the globe. It's insane. And Assange is a very, very important person, because he is a person who is the lightning rod for peace and justice on the planet. It's very important we all support him, in my view. If I'm wrong, please come and tell me. I'm very open-minded, but I don't see that there's any alternative. Now we have to stand up for every individual on the planet in the face of corrupt politics. Free Julian Assange, innocent man caught up in the UK penal system. Free Julian Assange.
Being confined to a cell for 23 hours a day. Let's just pause to think what that means. Being confined for 23 hours for 1 day in a prison cell. Now, consider what this means when you're confined in those circumstances for over a year, for God's sake. And you can appreciate what this man, knowing that he's innocent, is going through. Well, thank God there are people out there really promoting the issue. Because if there weren't, he would be like many others in this world, in the countries that are much more dictatorial than the countries we live in. He is fortunate in that circumstance, but that does not take away from the injustice one iota. Free Julian Assange now.
Only one decision! No expedition! 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 Free Assange! Free Assange! Free Assange! Free Assange! Free Assange! Free Assange! Only one decision! No expedition! Only one decision! No expedition! Only one decision! No expedition! Free Julian Assange! 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 Only one decision! No expedition! Only one decision! No expedition! Only one decision! No expedition! Free Julian Assange! Free Julian Assange! Free Julian Assange! Free Julian Assange! Free Julian Assange!
Free Julian Assange!
Only one decision!
No extradition!
Only one decision!
No extradition!
Only one decision!
No extradition!
Free Julian Assange!
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 Thank you.
You're
I would like
welcome.
to congratulate the people who are acting as citizens, sticking up for a fellow citizen who has been persecuted and scapegoated by the Australian government and by, well, actually the superpower, the American superpower, that now imagines that its laws extend to the ends of the earth and that nothing can be said against it, revealing its war crimes without being banged up in Belmarsh high security prison, where 3 people have already died of the coronavirus. And this puts Julian Assange at great risk. I don't even think he should go out on bail. He should be freed without restriction, possibly paid massive compensation for the life that he has lost through being restricted to the Ecuadorian embassy and now Belmarsh Prison. So what's the connecting thing between the refugees on this side, free the refugees, and free Assange? Well, these people are all being locked up without having committed any crime whatsoever. They are in a kind of detention, a kind of legal no man's land. These people, because they're not citizens and the government decided to turn them into scapegoats, and Julian Assange. Now, this is a very important case, and one might imagine that Julian Assange will be attracting some media attention. Well, look at the ABC. Look at the ABC. Are they giving... what they've done so far is they've done a hatchet job on 4 corners. That's what they've done so far. And I wrote to them saying there should be a panel discussion with Mark Davis on it and Maria Kostakidis. I wrote that to Sally Neighbour, executive producer of 4 Corners. A reply? No reply. You write to politicians? No reply. But he has a reply from us. We support Julian Assange, and we support the exposure of war crimes. And we do not think that the laws of the United States, obscure laws, extend to the ends of their empire, which would include the United States and Australia. We are not part of their empire. We have no wish to be part of their empire, of the empire of Caligula in Washington. We say free the refugees and free Julian Assange. No to dodgy Guantanamo Bays springing up all over the world. No black sites like Villawood. No black sites like Belmarsh Prison. No black sites where the law does not apply. With chosen judges that will do the bidding, as Michael says, as in the days of the darkest days of the Nazi regime. Yes, actually they were using the law in Nazi Germany, except it was Nazi law. They can always dig up something, but we need to go on justice. Justice takes precedence over any kind of law. Justice. And there is no natural justice in what is taking place. None whatsoever. He's stuck in a cage at the side of the court, unable to speak to his counsel. He's an innocent man. He has not committed a crime, except the crime of journalism and publishing, perhaps. And we want to watch out. And all the journalists should watch out, because once that becomes a crime, they'd better watch out, because they could be stuck in prison. And we need to draw the line in the sand. We've already seen the ABC, and to be honest, I haven't got much good to say to the ABC, but even the ABC has been raided. Even the Telegraph has been raided, for goodness sakes. They're very great friends of the establishment. So what the people at the other papers imagine will happen, who are ignoring research? Now, John Pilger said something very interesting about the journalists who were once friends of Assange who have now abandoned him, having made their profit for their papers by using all the evidence he presented. He called them Vichy journalists. And those who have studied Vichy France will have to agree. These were people in the service of the German Empire in Vichy, General Marshal Pétain. And look, just if you're interested, look at Vichy France and you'll see many parallels with what's happening here. And the journalists at the ABC and elsewhere need to learn a bit of courage and to support one of their own. Thank you for listening.